They didn't come in peace, nor did they come in war, not at first. They came with scanners, with diplomacy, and with an attitude so steeped in arrogance it dripped from every word they spoke. The Interstellar Council had finally acknowledged humanity's existence. Not because they feared Earth, not because of any technological marvel, but because humans had refused to assimilate. They wouldn't accept the Council's standardized trade protocols, declined to replace their AI with approved galactic frameworks, and worst of all, they built their own ships. Ugly, brutal, and unsanctioned ships. To most Council species, spacefaring civilization was a uniform affair. Fleets gleamed with standard-issue alloy curves, every vessel shaped by consensus engineering. Human vessels, however, were anomalies. They were asymmetrical, plated in outdated alloys, visibly scarred from past engagements, and bore no transponder signals recognized by the galactic core systems. They looked more like relics than weapons. The Jernari ambassador had been the first to voice concern. He had warned the Council that human ships didn't match their data. Their systems broadcast false signals. Their power readings fluctuated in patterns no species could decipher. He said what they showed was not what they were. No one listened. The Varkan fleet commander, a towering six-limbed warrior species bred for combat, replied that a species using magnetic coil guns and nuclear propulsion couldn't possibly be hiding anything of consequence. The ambassador repeated himself, quieter this time. He said their ships weren't hiding weapons. The ships were the weapons. The Council laughed. Across hundreds of species, from the crystalline Sarii to the gas-based Drell colonies, the consensus remained: humans were stubborn primitives playing with tools they didn't fully understand. A backwater species on the edge of map space, loud and chaotic, but irrelevant. That view shifted when the Athari patrol vanished. It was a small expedition, 3 ships sent to observe human movement near the outer solar boundary. They never returned. No wreckage, no distress signals, no data burst. The Council suggested a spatial anomaly, perhaps a rogue asteroid field. When a second fleet disappeared, this one equipped with long-range scanning and full-spectrum stealth detection, speculation turned to pirates. But even pirates leave debris. The third disappearance ended the excuses. 5 ships, full military escort, accompanied by a diplomatic vessel. Every system redundant, every frequency monitored. They vanished mid-transmission. The last recorded words: visual contact with an unknown human vessel. No images followed. Just silence. Some species began to reconsider the ambassador's warning. Others doubled down on their pride. The DAL Consortium, famous for its data modeling and simulations, said the disappearances lacked causality. There was no consistent threat profile. No energy surge, no gravitational event, nothing that fit known parameters. Their conclusion: atmospheric failure or internal sabotage. Human involvement was statistically improbable. But not everyone agreed. The Silex archivists began digging. They pulled records of minor skirmishes, decades old. Situations where alien ships had briefly encountered human vessels and vanished shortly after. At the time, these incidents had been attributed to local hazards or system errors. Now, the pattern emerged. Every ship had made contact with a human design that didn't match any registry. Ships that didn't behave according to Council logic. One log, heavily damaged, contained a single line from a pilot's private audio feed: "They see us before we see them." Still, the Council chose action over caution. They assembled a task force under the banner of diplomacy but fully armed. 20 ships, including scouts, destroyers, and a command vessel. Their route passed through human-claimed space, just inside the buffer zone Earth had marked with satellite beacons. They broadcast standard peaceful entry protocols and announced their approach. Humanity responded once. A compressed data packet. No audio. No video. Just text, translated perfectly into the Council's common language: "You were warned." The message was archived, flagged, and ignored. The mission proceeded. Human behavior defied every expectation. They didn't bluff, they didn't negotiate, and they didn't explain. They let the Council come. Let them gather. Let them believe their advantage was real. And they waited. One ship. That was all it took. A single human vessel, moving into range as the Council's fleet passed Jupiter's orbit. Its profile was distorted, sensor data inconsistent, heat signatures misaligned. Its design was worse than crude. It was a challenge. A statement. And still, no one recognized the trap. Because they had already decided what humans were. And now, they would learn what humans had become. The Vornak High Command initiated the incursion at 0400 Standard Galactic Time. Their formation was deliberate, every ship locked into precise trajectories, every signal clean and rehearsed. 20 vessels, including heavy cruisers, tactical corvettes, and electronic warfare platforms, advanced into human-designated space. The objective was clear: establish a presence, demonstrate superiority, and extract a response. If humanity escalated, they would contain. If not, they would control the narrative. No fleet in recent Council history had been better prepared. Weapon systems were calibrated for rapid acquisition. Countermeasures were layered, accounting for environmental hazards and potential unknowns. They anticipated resistance, possibly even engagement, but nothing they couldn't manage. They did not anticipate silence. As the fleet approached Saturn's orbit, they initiated broad-spectrum hailing. No response. Frequencies were adjusted, signal strength amplified. Still, no reply. The fleet advanced another 2 astronomical units before detecting movement, a single human vessel exiting Neptune's shadow. Its trajectory was erratic. Propulsion signatures didn't match known drive types. Optical analysis showed surface plating that bore no serials, no faction emblems, just deep-worn hulls scored by heat and time. It didn't decelerate. It didn't maneuver defensively. It simply approached. The Vornak flagged it as a decoy, perhaps automated. The destroyer Draxel locked weapons, ordered a warning shot. The command vessel overruled it. Protocol dictated non-aggression unless directly fired upon. Instead, a secure message was transmitted. This is Sovereign Council territory. Your incursion is unauthorized. Identify yourself. There was a delay. Then, a single-line reply arrived. You have crossed into human jurisdiction. This is your only opportunity to leave unchallenged. The message was logged as insolence. Orders shifted. The fleet repositioned, placing the human vessel within overlapping fields of fire. Tactical AI predicted a swift resolution if the ship resisted. Still, no immediate action was taken. They waited, expecting an escort fleet to emerge. None did. As minutes passed, Vornak analysts attempted to dissect the vessel's systems. Scans returned fragmented data. Energy readings contradicted propulsion metrics. Weapon ports were misaligned, implying design flaws. Its silhouette wavered slightly with each scan cycle, as though its structure was resisting classification. The command crew debated its intent. Saboteur? Distraction? Bait? But consensus was that it posed no real threat. The Vornak flagship gave final authorization to neutralize the target. The Draxel opened fire with a low-yield kinetic barrage. Before impact, the human ship altered velocity by a margin so small it appeared accidental. The projectiles missed by meters. No shields activated. No counterfire. The ship simply held position. Then its systems changed. Thermal signatures rose sharply, not in the engine core but across the entire hull. Electromagnetic pulses blanketed nearby comms. The nearest cruiser reported temporary sensor blackout. Then, abruptly, all Vornak ships experienced a sharp data spike. Every instrument recorded a flood of false telemetry, phantom signals, ghost contacts, fake weapon locks. Dozens of alerts flared across dashboards, all contradicting each other. Fleet Command issued a system-wide recalibration. But before it could complete, the human ship disappeared from visual sensors. It hadn't cloaked. It hadn't warped. It was simply gone. Seconds later, the light delay corrected, and the human vessel reappeared, behind them. By the time weapons rotated, 3 ships had lost engine control. AI backups were rebooting, targeting systems frozen in error states. The ship hadn't fired a shot. It hadn't launched a single missile. But systems were collapsing across the fleet. Emergency isolation protocols activated. The fleet split into subgroups, attempting to decentralize command vulnerability. But internal coordination degraded rapidly. The human vessel transmitted again. "You were told once. No further warnings will be given." Still no weapons discharged. No visible aggression. Just disruption. Tactical Command, now isolated from 8 ships, ordered full engagement. But when fire sequences initiated, shipboard AI refused. Targeting designations could not be verified. Cross-referencing failed. Visual inputs didn't match radar. The ship appeared in 3 different positions simultaneously, none of them consistent. Sensors began to display errors even in vacuum readings. Hull temperature monitoring registered atmospheric pressure where none existed. Optical feeds flickered with corrupted frames showing entirely different vessel types for fractions of seconds, then back to normal. It became clear the human ship was not jamming them. It was rewriting the battlefield. The Vornak commander authorized failsafe release, a high-yield plasma detonation at the center of the formation. Before it could be primed, the detonation sequence disabled itself. Ship command logs overwritten with a single phrase repeated across systems. "This is not your field." Panic spread in silence. The human vessel remained still. No escort appeared. No fleet emerged. One ship had unraveled the coherence of a coordinated force. Orders broke down. Vornak hierarchy splintered. The chain of command was technically intact, but functionally paralyzed. The last internal message transmitted between Vornak commanders before radio silence was declared read simply, "This is not a ship. It's a weapons system wearing a disguise." The fleet broke formation without receiving any external command. Discipline eroded under the weight of conflicting data and the absence of logic. The Vornak were trained for high-stress combat, but not for systemic disintegration caused by proximity to a single target. The human vessel didn't pursue. It didn't broadcast demands. It waited. Motionless. Imposing. The implication was louder than any threat. It had done this with presence alone. The Cerno frigate attempted retreat. No engine failure, no external damage, just an unexplained navigational override that reversed its trajectory by 180 degrees. Bridge officers found their own systems locked out. Manual control failed. The ship coasted toward Saturn without resistance, its crew reduced to passengers inside their own vessel. No response from the human ship. No reaction. It simply allowed it. On-board AIs across the remaining fleet began resetting autonomously. Recovery cycles failed to complete. Ship cores that were engineered to resist even nuclear disruptions now flagged internal contradictions in reality. Diagnostic loops logged spatial inconsistencies, measurements that changed despite fixed positions, interior decks reporting impossible distances, closed loops that led back to the same corridor. Artificial intelligences, incapable of fear, began failing their own logic tests. On the command ship, the Vornak admiral issued the standing order to re-establish a full retreat vector. The directive never propagated. Internal message systems worked. External systems did not. Encryption protocols reverted to obsolete standards last used decades ago, then re-encrypted themselves in unknown formats. Crew members were locked out of critical pathways as the ship's systems rejected its own command hierarchy. Then, without warning, visual systems began to record environmental anomalies, stars in the background shifting positions, celestial bodies distorting angles, distances altering by measurable amounts with no cause. One junior officer, a cybernetics specialist with enhanced sensory processing, suffered a complete neural shutdown while attempting to manually trace the anomalies. Her implants could no longer separate false data from real. Still, the human vessel remained stationary. Not one move. No escalation. The Vornak ships began drifting, some by mechanical fault, others by quiet desperation. Several ships powered down voluntarily. Their crews believed that surrendering operational control might reduce interference. It did not. A single data burst reached the fleet. It was not a communication. It was a compressed information package, time-locked, and auto-executed upon receipt. Once decoded, it revealed a simulation, a detailed, step-by-step prediction of the fleet's movements and failures, matching every event that had occurred over the last hour. Precise. Down to the second. The final step had not yet happened. Final system collapsed in 4 minutes. No one knew how to respond. The simulation couldn't be refuted. It had predicted even the uncommanded drifts. It had documented internal resistance attempts that had never been externally transmitted. It proved one terrifying fact: the human ship hadn't simply reacted. It had orchestrated the sequence in advance. Fractured leadership resulted in contradicting orders. Some captains attempted to initiate fire manually. Weapon safeties engaged independently. Turrets rotated at glacial speed, locked on phantom positions. No visual acquisition. Power cores began to idle. Multiple ships suffered blackouts. Not from EMPs, not from weapons, just failure. Quiet and methodical. One after another. A silence fell over the fleet. Not literal. Systems still buzzed, air circulators still hummed, but among the crews, there was no speech. They were no longer part of a fleet. They were isolated fragments caught in a reality that refused to obey structure. They had left their space, but what they had entered wasn't human territory. It was something designed. Designed not just to mislead or confuse, but to rewrite the basic understanding of spatial presence, signal fidelity, and electronic integrity. Their training had not prepared them for war with a system that didn't fight with fire, but with physics. One that made tools betray their users. One that didn't kill, because it didn't have to. As predicted, for minutes passed. One by one, the fleet's remaining systems shut down. Lights dimmed. Life support switched to emergency fallback. Communication ceased. In total silence, every display across the fleet displayed the same static symbol, unknown in form, primitive in design, human in style. The symbol blinked once. Then everything went dark. The council scrambled to understand the aftermath. No distress calls. No debris. The entire Vornak fleet had vanished from all sensor arrays, swallowed by silence. Attempts to send reconnaissance probes into the last known coordinates yielded no results. The space was empty, as if the ships had never existed. Emergency sessions convened. Analysts pored over telemetry logs and incomplete data streams recovered before the blackout. The only consistent thread was the presence of that human vessel, their sole witness, or perhaps, their executioner. Galactic historians compared this event to ancient myths: fleets lost to spatial storms, ships swallowed by wormholes, entire civilizations erased without trace. But this was different. It was deliberate. Precise. A calculated demonstration of power masked as disappearance. The Council's intelligence division uncovered encrypted transmissions buried deep in the human ship's signal logs. The data revealed a layered system of protocols, adaptive algorithms that altered ship functions in real time, synchronized with environmental feedback. The vessel wasn't just a ship. It was a sentient system, designed to manipulate space-time parameters around it. This revelation shattered long-held beliefs. The Council's tech relied on brute force and rigid protocols. Humans had engineered fluidity and unpredictability into their ships. The vessel's architecture allowed it to phase between detection modes, rewrite sensor data, and create phantom signals to confuse and dismantle enemy coordination. A senior Council scientist posited that the ship harnessed a form of quantum field manipulation. It could distort localized space, bending electromagnetic waves, and effectively cloak itself not by hiding, but by rewriting the very fabric of observation. This was unprecedented. Technology that effectively made the ship a ghost, a phantom fleet, a weapon beyond conventional warfare. Diplomatic channels exploded with fear and suspicion. Many species demanded immediate containment orders against humanity. Some called for sanctions, others for preemptive strikes. But Earth did not respond to any calls. Instead, they issued a broadcast. It was terse, devoid of rhetoric. "You were warned. Learn before you lose more." The message was as unsettling as the silence. No negotiations. No demands. Just a cold fact. The Council realized this wasn't a bluff. This was a lesson. Speculation turned toward human motives. Why show such overwhelming force without firing a shot? Why disable rather than destroy? Many concluded it was a test, a demonstration of deterrence. Humans had no intention of conquest, but they demanded respect through sheer capability. Council strategists reassessed the human threat model. They revised previous assumptions, acknowledging that humans did not rely on overwhelming firepower but on control of the battlefield's reality itself. This made conventional tactics obsolete. Within the Council, debate ignited over whether humanity should be invited to formal negotiations or quarantined indefinitely. Some feared that engaging them could trigger unknown risks. Others argued isolation would only breed further unpredictability. Meanwhile, Earth's systems underwent quiet expansion. Starship designs, once rudimentary and considered outdated by galactic standards, were revealed to be modular platforms capable of integrating new quantum field tech instantly. Earth's naval doctrine embraced asymmetry, chaos, and deception as core strengths. Council analysts acknowledged a new era. Humanity's rise was not through domination but through innovation that defied comprehension. The message was clear: underestimate humans at your peril. Across the galaxy, other species took note. Smaller fleets began adopting countermeasures based on partial human technology scavenged from old conflicts. Alliances shifted subtly, with some factions seeking Earth's favor, others tightening defenses. Humanity remained silent, watching, waiting. Their ships, still unassuming in appearance, patrolled quietly beyond known space, a silent reminder that the universe had grown more dangerous, not because humans wanted to rule, but because they had learned how to survive where others failed. The lesson was etched into galactic consciousness: human ships were special, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand why. Galactic powers shifted quietly but irreversibly. The disappearance of the Vornak fleet became a turning point, a stark reminder that the old rules no longer applied. Council member species, long confident in their dominance, found themselves re-evaluating strategies that had held sway for centuries. The unpredictability of human technology was a disruptive force no one could afford to ignore. Humans, for their part, maintained a deliberate distance. They expanded their presence not through overt aggression but by subtle influence, deploying ships that blended into the background, appearing unremarkable to the casual observer. Their technology remained inscrutable, their intentions obscured beneath layers of ambiguity. This ambiguity became their greatest weapon. Intelligence agencies across the galaxy scrambled to decode the pattern of human expansion. Reports emerged of small outposts with advanced shielding, energy systems that defied known physics, and ships capable of altering their own signatures at will. These installations weren't bases of war but hubs of observation and rapid deployment. Diplomats noted that humans never initiated negotiations first, but they always responded to challenges, sometimes with overwhelming demonstration, sometimes with silence. This unpredictability bred caution. Allies grew hesitant, enemies wary, and neutral parties unsure whether to engage or avoid. Behind closed doors, many factions debated the ethical implications. Was humanity a new hope for innovation and balance, or a looming threat that could destabilize centuries of galactic order? The duality of human nature, creative yet ruthless, adaptive yet inscrutable, made categorization impossible. The Interstellar Council initiated new protocols. A task force was created specifically to monitor human activity, incorporating cutting-edge technology influenced by human designs recovered from various encounters. These adaptations included dynamic encryption systems and reactive defense grids. Still, no amount of technology fully mitigated the uncertainty humans introduced. Several species attempted covert contact, offering alliances or trade in exchange for access to human technology. Most attempts were ignored or met with vague replies. One faction claimed to have received a cryptic message. Trust is earned, not given. The Council's stance hardened. Human ships were no longer a curiosity but a strategic factor to be reckoned with. Training programs adjusted to include simulations of human tactics and technology, emphasizing unpredictability and psychological warfare. Meanwhile, humanity's approach to the wider galaxy evolved. Their fleets became extensions of a decentralized command structure, adaptive, resilient, and capable of rapid innovation. Each vessel operated with a degree of autonomy rare in galactic fleets, allowing them to respond to threats without centralized orders. Human engineers continued to refine their ships' quantum field manipulation capabilities, pushing boundaries that alien science considered theoretical or impossible. They explored integrating organic and synthetic systems, blending biological adaptability with technological precision. The consequence was a fleet that was not merely a tool of war but a living system, capable of learning, evolving, and anticipating threats before they materialized. This self-optimization allowed humans to operate on the edge of known physics, turning the unpredictable into their advantage. Galactic opinion remained divided. Some regarded humans as a potential partner in a new era of exploration and understanding. Others feared that humanity's indifference to tradition and protocol would spark conflict that no one could control. For humans, the message was simple. Their ships were special not because they sought dominance, but because they understood that survival required more than firepower. It demanded mastery over reality itself, the ability to shape perception, disrupt expectations, and redefine the very nature of engagement. The galaxy watched and waited, uncertain what humanity's next move would be. The warning had been clear: underestimate human ships at your peril. Now, every species knew that the real lesson was only beginning.